Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sood YouTube channel. Recently, I had a great experience visiting the NatWest Business Show live, and I wanted to do a video to share my learnings with you all. The first person that talked was Amelia Sordell, and she was fantastic. It's the first time I really heard her story and how she started, and that came from failure to some extent. She had a business and she grew it really well and did all these things right, but then over leveraged herself, and that caused the business to close down. And she wasn't shy about telling us this. It was quite open, it was quite vulnerable, and it was really nice to see that side of someone where they could talk openly about it. I'm referring to my notes down here because I did a lot of scribbles, so forgive me. Yeah, there was loads of good nuggets of information that she gave out. So, for example, she mentioned the term failing forward and how failure can not hold you back, it can actually expand your horizons. I think that's what she was trying to illustrate with that point, is that in failure, when we've made a mistake, treat it as a lesson opposed to necessarily just being a negative thing. You can fail but still grow as a person, grow as a business, and that was really important. I really liked that comment from her. Take calculated risks, don't assume you know everything. And sometimes a lot of us tie our identities into work, so we become our work. And I think she was trying to say to us that that doesn't necessarily have to be the case all the time. And just because you are working, this is what you do, your identity doesn't have to be connected in that way. She, I think, felt that when her first business was, going under or failing, for example. She felt like that was her whole life, in terms of everyone knew her for running a business. This is what she was doing, but then failing kind of meant that she lost herself. And I think that was really powerful, the way she overcame that to create this new business that's doing phenomenally well. Keep going, working towards your strengths, and yeah. Just to go back to my notes, sorry. This might be a bit random, but apologies. Wear failure as a badge of success, and through that failure, we can succeed. I thought that was a really powerful quote from her. One thing that I really liked, and it's slightly different to my thinking and how I've thought previously, is one milestone at a time. Rather than having these big goals over 3, 4, 5 years and a plan on how that's going to happen, have something you need to hit it, move on to the next. And I thought that was a really good way to think about things in terms of shorter term goals and actions and objectives, because it made you focus really hard on what you actually needed to do. So, for example, if that's actually to sell X amount of products or X amount of chutney, in my case, for example, how can I just focus on that goal and achieve it and then move on to the next one, rather than thinking, how are we going to get to hundreds and hundreds of supermarkets? And that's way down the line and it might be too far away, but it's almost clouding our judgment in the here and now. Honestly, it's the best policy. Someone's doing a good job, tell them about it. Someone's doing a bad job, tell them about it. Don't sugarcoat it. I thought that was really powerful, and you can tell Amelia spent a lot of time crafting her team and she has a good relationship with them. One thing that I thought was really interesting was she talked about there's no such thing as family in business. Why she said that is that, and we've been guilty of it ourselves, is that a lot of businesses say, look, we have family values, we're all like a family. But the reality is, and I agree with her to some extent on this, is that family is unconditional. Family will show up regardless if you've done a good job or a bad job. Family have you back no matter what. And it is a bit of blurred lines if you use that messaging in the wrong way about your business, because if your business is a family, then you can just do a job and still get paid. The reality is there are conditions for us to be at work as employers, as colleagues. We expect things, so we expect people to turn up on time, to not miss meetings, not miss deadlines, to perform and exceed in their job roles so they can get promotions and pay rises, etc., etc. And vice versa, as employers, people will expect us to be compassionate, be understanding, not to take the piss when it comes to hours of work or whatever the case could be. And that's a condition of employment, and it works both ways. If I fail as an employer, I'm not doing my job, my employees, right? And same way, if my employees or the guys that work with us, I'm trying to get better at not saying employees or staff, our colleagues that work with us, if they don't meet their conditions, I need to pull them up on it. And if it becomes a recurring pattern, things will need to change. So I like those points that she mentioned. But it was interesting because Gary Vee basically said the complete opposite. but it wasn't necessarily contradicting each other. Both people had really good points, and I think what Gary was saying is about you have to show that you care, you have to show you're compassionate, because that's the only way people will buy into you as well. And having that experience and having that family environment is just a good place to work and a good place to be. But you will still have to have those difficult conversations if conditions aren't met. So I thought that was really interesting. And then she ended on accountability, and taking ownership of your decisions builds your confidence. And I think we've all been guilty of not taking accountability historically. I certainly have. And I'm trying to take more accountability for, the position we're in at Sood. We're not necessarily in the best position, we're not necessarily in the worst position. And when I first started, I felt like we could have gone a lot further, or we should have been a lot further along. But in hindsight, that was me perhaps coasting a bit too much and not taking a risk every now and then, or taking too many risks and making some mistakes. So I'm now trying to take more accountability and put more action into place of getting us to where I believe we can get to. The next speaker, and I love this guy. I thought he was so cool. Everything he was saying was so good. So I'll just go through it. His name was Grayson Hart. He was a former rugby player, South African guy, very cool. And then he founded the sports brand Pure Sport. So the first point he said was see through the fear of failure. For him, he told a story of when he was starting out in rugby, and he was scared obviously to fail, and he had that fear within him of making a mistake or not performing well enough. And he thought as he got better, as he progressed, as he got to the top of the game, that fear would disappear. But in reality, that fear was always there. So you have to lean into it rather than run from it. I thought that was super powerful. He said this was so true, like I thought, because I've been guilty of it before. So I'll tell you what he said. He said, no one knows your passion or vision as much as you, and it's hard to break through the noise of other people and influences out there. And what he meant by that is there's so much talk of do this, do that, you should do that. And I'm guilty of giving that advice too. Whereas I'm not in the shoes of the people, or the people aren't in the shoes of me and my business and my context to understand where we are, what we want to do, where we want to get to, but they'll have an opinion. So he said it was really important to don't just take people's advice and run with it. Use that advice and use that information to question your own perspective. If something changes, great, but if something doesn't change, then don't worry about it, move on. Just because someone said something doesn't mean you have to go with it. Thought that was super powerful. I loved what he told us about Pure Sports and the Run Club, and he talked about what I'll talk about. I took a note on what he said. So he said, work is conditional, relationships can be conditional, but when people are looking for a place and sense of belonging, if you can create a community that is unconditional, then you're winning. He said he gets referenced as a marketing genius and a marketing guru and all these things, and what he told us was that actually he just in reality felt a bit out of action. So obviously when he finished his rugby career, he probably wasn't training as much, and he said he just wanted to have a place where he could come and train, and he created these free clubs for people to come along and train with him on. I think that's how it started. I'm sure there's a story out there, so make sure you do your own research. I'm just telling you some stuff, so take it how you need to take it. And then so we had the running club started, and it was for anyone at any level could come along and hang out, work out, run, and that's how the community built, and people could just turn up and there's no condition for them turning up. And when he talked about it, I know so many brands that have tried to start something and tried to be something, and we've been guilty of that too, but there were conditions for that to happen, be it a payment, be it a fee, be it me wanting to sell more, or someone trying to sell more clothes, or whatever the case could be. And ultimately those sort of groups and those sort of things fail. Whereas now he's got this amazing community that all come together, and other brands are coming into him to try and leverage that and leverage what he has. And I thought what was really great is he had other influencers come and tell him, we need to start monetizing this, because they might have been investors or whatever the case could be, and that was something he stuck to his guns on. So as soon as we start doing that, people won't turn up, and we've ruined what we've created in terms of this great community. So really respect him for that, and I thought that was unbelievable. So again, create a community that is unconditional. There was a lady called Hannah there, and she was a Peloton instructor. She had so many little nuggets of advice, and her story was great because she was an athlete, I believe, who didn't necessarily make it. So I think she didn't get to the Olympics, but might need to. I'll link it down below, her full story. And the most powerful thing she said is, you can still be proud and walk away. And at that time, it must have been so hard to give up the Team GB hopes and dreams and not necessarily know what you were going to do afterwards. And, she's gone on to do phenomenal things now. But, it made me reflect. So when I was at uni, I didn't really enjoy the course I was doing, didn't really go to uni too much. I was just playing video games, and no one kind of told me that it's okay to like drop out. And being from Asian culture, you think, go to uni, get a job, do whatever. No one kind of told me I could drop out, and it was partly fear because I didn't want to fail. But yeah, you can be proud and walk away was really powerful, and partly just didn't have any role models or anyone that could show me that path in that sense. Whereas, I could have still been proud, walked away, and still done something great. I didn't do very well. I got third, and I thought that's quite good considering I only attended like 2 or 3 times in the last year. The next person to speak, I believe, was Stephanie, and she was fantastic. So her business is called Fuck Being Humble, and she opened up with, "Don't wait to be invited, invite yourself." And it really drove home a lot of things that I've been working on this year, is that I have been perhaps too passive when it comes to sales and trying to grow the business and do things, whereas I need to just believe in myself that I am capable of delivering these things, and I am good enough to deliver these things, and I don't need anyone else's permission to tell me that. She gave so many nuggets of information. I don't want to go through it all. She gave me the most notes, truth be told, out of anyone. But one thing she said, which was fantastic, and I think it applies to so many business owners, so many people, is that you miss out on opportunities to people worse than you. If you don't speak up and take your space, other people will take it. You already have what it takes. You are worthy. I thought that was so brilliant, and the way she came across was so good. She gave a few other nuggets of information, so I'll share some stuff with you. Sorry, can't speak. I feel like I've talked for a long time. I probably have rambled on, so apologies. If these videos are too long, let us know. If you got to this point in the video, well done. It's nearly over, so don't worry. Yeah, I loved what she said. You've got to be prepared to piss off 80% of the people to turn on 20% of the people. And what she meant by that is not everyone is going to buy into you. And we have to accept that fact. And we have to accept that fact that not everyone is going to like you, not everyone's going to get on with you. But 20% of the people you encounter, you meet, you speak to, will do that, and work to please them, work to support them, work to engage with them, opposed to trying to engage with everyone. I thought that was so powerful. She was talking about, when it comes to setting prices, and I thought this was really cool and a really good way to think about it. She said, when you bid for a job or bid for a project, make sure you set a price, and that could be an hourly rate, it could be a project rate, whatever the case could be, that is high enough for you to get really excited about the project. You don't want to go in low, and you don't want to accept low fees or not your worth in that sense. If you're starting out in business, you might have to be lower. If you're well established, you might have that value and that experience to command a higher rate. But if you charge someone too little, you'll end up resenting them for the work you're doing. And that's happened to me before. We've charged clients way too little, and it built up so much resentment that we've, had to stop working with them over time. And I could have easily avoided that by just charging correctly and knowing our value and our worth, and not making the mistakes that I have made. Discomfort is temporary, but the payoff can be extraordinary. Dealing with the difficulties will help your future self. I thought it was really powerful, and yeah, she just was really cool. Definitely recommend you to buy her book. And then finally, it was Gary Vee's time to talk, and it was just such an amazing experience to hear Gary Vee speak. And I'll tell you a couple of things and a couple of points I want to raise, and then we'll finish this video. But one thing that Gary said is that he spends most of his time with employees or with his staff. And again, I've said the words, and yes, colleagues. So again, it just sounds better. And James Timpson had an opportunity to meet him and listen to a talk from him, and he refers to everyone as colleagues. I'm trying to do the same because I understand the sentiment behind it and why we should do that. but it's a habit that I need to change. So yeah, spend more time with colleagues, and Gary seems to do that quite a lot. He was very enthusiastic about getting to know people, learning about them, but then also helping them overcome any challenges they may have. That's something I'm trying to get better at. You're only as strong as your least happy member of the team or your least happy colleague. And then the most impactful thing he talked about was regret is poison. He told us and he encouraged us all to mitigate regret for when we're in our 80s or 90s. So think about, if we are that age and if we are that old, how can we, mitigate regret? How can we stop any regret by doing the work now? Is it going to the gym, or is it exercising more so you can spend time with your kids? Is it working a little bit harder so you work a little bit less later on in life, or vice versa? Spend less time working now and enjoy your life. It was so powerful in terms of just making you question your own perspective on things. Didn't really get to speak to Gary. I was a bit gutted. I wanted to ask a question to him, but we were in the queue, we were waiting. A friend was with me, and I didn't even get my book signed, to be honest. It was my friend passed me his book and we got that signed. But Gary had to leave, and we could see as the queue was going down. I had another engagement afterwards. But I thought this was a really class act from him, was when his PA told him for like the third time, we need to go, he was like, right, I can't really answer any more questions. But he went round to everyone in the queue, signed the books, and took photos with them. And I thought that was really cool because he didn't necessarily have to do that. He was late for another engagement, and he took his time out of his day. And obviously, he's a very busy guy, and he's got lots to do to, quickly engage with everyone and do the photos, do the signing. And yeah, I just thought that was really cool. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there anything you weren't sure on, anything you wanted to have more clarity on? There's a load of notes, so we can definitely write a blog on this. And yeah, hope to see you next time. Take care.